There is another celebration that will take place at the Marquee. Will be most of all brought your dancing shoes, and I hope that you are very thirsty among others. Thank you very much. Ladies, welcome to the podium.
Just to begin by saying that I'm often sometimes Professor Ndebele, sometimes just Prof. You have been, I add my greetings to you all in all the different languages that have been expressed, and to welcome you all to this auspicious occasion. Professor Mpedi said that, quoted certain words that I'm supposed to have written or said, and asked if I remember. It reminds me of many students who I meet sometimes, and they say, Prophet, do you remember what you said to make it or not? And finally, there is an examination. I saw some of them coming in here, queuing. I said, why are they queuing? He said, they're going to write an exam. And it's a wonderful thing. And so it makes me reflect on the notion of institutions and practices and traditions. They are very important in creating a sense of self, not only for the individuals, but for the institution, for the communities in which we live. And we discovered community, the sense of community, not too long ago, I think it's last year in June or July, when there was an insurrection. And you remember that there was all the looting and everything until it all came to Soweto, Maponya Mall. And the people in that community said, not here. We're going to hold on to this. It's our shopping mall. And I rediscovered in my mind the notion that having an economy is not about the big centum and so on only. It is also about the community seeing itself as an economic, as a unit of living that is disciplined, that is connected, that has a history behind it. So I'm contemplating, therefore, as I live, the notion of practices and traditions. Applying it to the university, I've enjoyed the traditions, the practices that we have seen coming here, just entering in an orderly way, each of us knowing why we're here, what we are coming to do, and keeping our fingers crossed that it will be one more successful event. I'd like to take a big risk and say that the traditions, the practices, the words, the actions that come and go and are remembered, I'd like to take a risk and apply these to the sense of how we feel today as I leave this post, this role, how we feel today to be a people and a country with lovely ethnic communities, with strong traditions that go back hundreds and in some cases thousands of years. And they are still here. And in the last 150 years ago, there was a massive interruption, the colonialism and everything, and then apartheid and everything. It was a massive interruption that has left a strong sense of itself that is, in some cases, difficult to cast off. And since 1994, we've been trying to cast off some of those things, and we have done a pretty good job in many instances. But looking to the elections of 2024, we are wondering what it is that will bring us together, what it is that will constitute us into a society that remembers its past, that is in charge of its presence, and is planning, is thinking ahead about its future. And I'd like to take a chance and say that just from the example of the university, so does it apply to a country. That we will feel we're successful once we know what we expect out of the behavior of a single individual in a particular set of circumstances, because we have shared among ourselves the proper perspectives on decorum, on rules and regulations, on laws that have to be obeyed and followed, because we know that when they are not, everything collapses. We know, as institutions of universities in particular, that the institutions matter precisely because they are communal places. We all agree with whatever institution we're in, we all agree that we give something of ourselves to the institution. The institution becomes our bigger self. And when we let the institution become our bigger self, it means that we give it the rights and the discretion to give us a direction, because we trust the institution, because we trust the people that run it, because we share a common history. But when somewhere along the way we forget the history, then we get lost and we flounder. So I believe that a country is the biggest of institutions. We have given ourselves to it through the constitution that we agreed must govern us. And whenever that constitution is flouted, is not followed, in some cases at the highest levels, everything goes wrong. We lose hope, we lose a sense of perspective, and so on and so forth. I feel, therefore, that at the end of my tenure as Vice Chancellor, as Chancellor, I have been that one several times, and so it sort of sticks in my mind. But I feel that there is in a university an institution of great value, that we appreciate it more the more the young people graduate and they get into positions of authority in government, in the civil service, and everywhere. And what gives me happiness is that I have experienced the University of Johannesburg through two transitions, or one at least. This was Professor Rensberg. I was appointed in his time, and he handed over to Professor Marwala. A very smooth transition. And I think there's about to be a very smooth transition again. And this is how it should be in a country. And it's a smooth and well thought through vice chancellors have expressed their vision of what they want to do and so on. It's all gone very smoothly and beautifully. And I have the same feeling that there will be a smooth transition, as you see, is underway as a new chancellor comes in. And it gives me a great sense of pride to have been a part of all this, and right at the end to say goodbye to this wonderful institution and to say hello to our new chancellor who will be inaugurated very soon. And I believe that that is how changes should be. You never know what happens in the background, but the wonderful thing is that whatever is going on in the background is managed very nicely. And so at the end, we see the smoothness and the peacefulness of it all. So I conclude, therefore, by wishing our new chancellor everything of the best, and just to remember the song that was sung first, "You will never walk alone," if that's what was said. And thank you very much for being here to witness this tremendous change and transformation. And please enjoy the rest of the evening.
Greetings again. Change is difficult, but it is necessary. I also would like to acknowledge the presence of our former Speaker of Parliament, Mr. Max Sisulu, who is with us, and also our Director General in the Presidency, Mrs. Phumzile Valeni, who is also with us today to celebrate this very, very important moment in the life of the University of Johannesburg. In recent months, I have spent much time reflecting on my beginnings at this great University of Johannesburg. In weeks since the announcement of my departure to become Director of the United Nations University and the UN Under-Secretary General, I am speechless when I think about the journey that the University of Johannesburg has traveled under the leadership of very capable people. The Chair of Council, Mr. Teke, who without fail called me every morning at 6 o'clock to find out whether the university is still standing. And this is what leadership is about. It is about holding those you lead accountable. UJ, with 50,000 students, is now ranked second in Africa according to the QS rankings, and also according to Times Higher Education Impact rankings. And it's a much wealthier university with reserves that is almost 4 billion rands. And furthermore, it is a far more significant university in the global education landscape. The Zambian poet Musenga Katonga eloquently captures the feeling of these new beginnings that we are about to embark on what I would characterize as a great change at the University of Johannesburg. Beckoning bright lights bring events expected to excite while gears grind to guide and invite innovative insight. Novel nuances every night, negative notions nullified, close quote. This is really what the University of Johannesburg is about. Nullifying all negativities and augmenting all positivities. I joined University of Johannesburg in 2009. I used to be a professor at the University of the Witwatersrand. And I joined University of Johannesburg full of hope as the executive dean in the Faculty of Engineering and the Built Environment. I am glad to report today that the Faculty of Engineering and the Built Environment at the University of Johannesburg now produces more research than any other faculty in South Africa. As I settled into my role as dean and began developing strategies and restructuring faculty, I was really surprised by the culture of excellence that was grown by Professor Rensbeck, which is now the very DNA of the University of Johannesburg. This should continue to be the guiding light in our glorious march towards global excellence and stature. In 2013, I became Deputy Vice Chancellor for Research and Internationalization, succeeding Professor Adam Habib, and in 2018, Vice Chancellor and Principal, succeeding Professor Aaron Rensbeck. I was privileged to stand on the shoulders of these giants who preceded me and also benefited greatly from the wise counsel and support of Professor Njabulo Ndebele. And when I talk about giants, I'm talking about giants in terms of height. I am talking about giants because of their excellent work that they do for our community. Though my roles here at the University of Johannesburg have changed, and collectively as an institution, we have had to weather various challenges over time. The shine of being part of an institution that has risen faster than any other institution in the African continent, according to global rankings, continues to inspire me. It is not without merit to declare that our astonishing rise will positively reverberate into the future and position the African continent on a progressive developmental trajectory. The unusual mix of sadness to leave behind an incredible institution and excitement for the future is intriguingly one we all deeply resonate with this evening. Change often spurs this feeling, and I take comfort in the evidence that change is indeed a universal experience. We are indeed on the precipice of new beginnings at UJ, which begin this very moment. As the theory of dialectics dictates, and I quote, "Everything is always changing." The Greek philosopher Heraclitus understood change 2,700 years ago when he said, "No man ever steps into the same river twice, for it is not the same river, and he is not the same man." Close quote. As the Japanese proverb states, and I'm going to try to read it in Japanese, "Mizu ni nagasu," meaning the water flows. So change is the only normal. UJ should not be afraid of change, but should embrace it as a motive force that will thrust UJ deeper into the pinnacle of the fourth industrial revolution to achieve global excellence and stature. UJ is undergoing great change. We have the new Chancellor, the dynamic Dr. Phumzile Mlambo-Ngcuka. We just appointed a new Vice Chancellor, the wise Professor Litlokwa George Mpedi. We just appointed the new Registrar, the scientifically astute Professor Bettine Janse van Vieren. And we are about to elect a new chair of council that will replace the energetic Mr. Mike Teke and the Deputy Vice Chancellor academic to replace Professor Mpedi. To paraphrase the words of US President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and I quote, "We should not fear change, but fear itself." And as the Chinese leader Deng Xiaoping will tell us, we must continue to seek truth from facts. The convergence of forces that bring us here this evening represents a small paradigm shift of their own. Alongside Dr. Phumzile Mlambo-Ngcuka, whose excitement and passion for education has been palpable as we visited some of UJ's schools and labs, I reflected on the implications of this great change and have come to a firm conclusion that the future of UJ is indeed in excellent hands. As a futurist, I know that a paradigm shift signifies significant change and advancement, and this is something that should be readily and openly embraced and not feared. To paraphrase Thomas Kuhn's 1962 iteration of the structure of scientific revolutions, paradigm shifts are a necessary part of life. UJ should therefore use this time to orientate its focus on the fourth industrial revolution to have a more positive impact on society. As my grandmother Wuchiane often said, and I quote, "Knowledge only becomes education when it is used for the advancement of society." It is therefore an honor to be able to usher in this new change and epoch at UJ, our new Chancellor. Dr. Mlambo-Ngcuka's commitment to education, with the emphasis on leaving no child behind, will find roots in Professor Ndebele's legacy. Our university, born out of a merger, holds the weight of the promise of the new South Africa. While glaring gaps and deficits admittedly remain, our ability to soar to the dizzying heights of African academy, according to global rankings, even amid uncertainty and upheaval, is a source of strength that we should constantly refer to. As Professor Ndebele's tenure demonstrates, our identity can be affirmed through our Pan-African lenses. Now, as we continue the fight for greater access, greater equity, and equality, Dr. Mlambo-Ngcuka provides a steady and guiding hand, defined by an exemplary career that has emphasized literacy, gender equity, and resilient education systems. Her credentials are impeccable. From the humble beginnings in the dusty streets of the struggle to the political corridors of this country, and later to the United Nations as Under-Secretary General and Executive Director of UN Women in 2013, we have absolutely no reason to lament that we do not have role models, because in her, we do have a dynamic and excellent role model. Her career is a testament to her stature as a leader and to a pursuit of a better and more just society. I am reminded of her 2019 words that we need an, and I quote, Aristotelian vision of global growth based on virtues of ethics in this era. It is precisely this beginning together the promise of a democratic and non-racial, non-sexist, and good society built on ethics that has an inherent transformative potential that aligns to the University of Johannesburg's pursuits. We are in a quest of scaling the heights of excellence globally, but with regard to our context, the histories and nightmares we have emerged from as a country, and the need for responsiveness to our context have to become a dream that we have to overcome. We dream and innovate through our research, teaching and learning, and reaching community engagements. Accordingly, I am proud, Madam Chancellor, you have come to lead a university that now produces more research output than any other university in South Africa. I am confident that you will continue to walk this path with us and guide us as we reimagine the future. It is an honor to witness the batons passing from one leader I hold in such high esteem to another. It is not a coup. It is not a coup. It is a just transition. It is an honor. It assures me that I am leaving this institution that has meant so much to me in very safe hands. I am reminded of the words of the celebrated poet Ben Okri, who reflected on change and ushering in a new era in 10 on Light some years ago. As he wrote, we could use the new era to clean our eyes, to see the world differently, to see ourselves more clearly. Only free people can make a free world. Infect the world with your light. Help fulfill the golden prophecies. Press forward the human genius. Our future is greater than our past. This is certainly the sentiment that should define the new era for the University of Johannesburg. I am sure that UJ's future is even greater as we collectively set our sights on frontiers anew. As we have demonstrated in our short history, UJ's ability to soar and soar again is truly unparalleled and must continue till the eternity of the time-space continuum. UJ must continue to help us expand and consolidate our democratic culture. Ndiyaribuwa, ngiyabonga, bayadanki, thank you. We will now proceed with the inauguration of the Chancellor. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to inform you that in accordance with the university statute, the Council of the University of Johannesburg has appointed Dr. Phumzile Mlambo-Ngcuka as Chancellor of the University of Johannesburg. So I am going to request Professor Mlambo-Ngcuka to come to the podium as I read her biography. Dr. Phumzile Mlambo-Ngcuka is the former United Nations Under-Secretary General and Executive Director of UN Women, who completed her term in August 2021 after being sworn into office on 19th August 2013. Dr. Mlambo-Ngcuka was born in 1955 in Claremont, KwaZulu-Natal. After matriculated from Ohlange High School, she was awarded her bachelor's degree in the arts and education at the National University of Lesotho in 1980. She further obtained a qualification in gender policy and planning from the University College of London in 1988. A master's degree in philosophy from the University of Cape Town in 2003, and a doctorate in technology and education from Warwick University, awarded in 2013. She has authored several scholarly and other opinion pieces, including in the Harvard International Review. And just recently, she authored a preface of my book, Heal Our World. She was awarded honorary doctorates from the following institutions: Technikon Witwatersrand, one of the Pekesa institution of the University of Johannesburg, the University of the Western Cape, Nelson Mandela University, the University of Fort Hare, the University of Witwatersrand, and Rhodes University. She was inducted as a Hausa leader at the Harvard Kennedy School Center for Public Leadership and awarded the Vanguard Award by Howard University for leadership and activism in promoting human rights, equality, and justice for women and girls across the globe. Throughout her illustrious career, she directed her energy towards issues of human rights, equality, and social justice, with a specific emphasis on gender and youth development. She was a lecturer at the Mpumalanga Teachers Training College in 1980 to 1981, and thereafter she became a teacher at the Otlange High School. And by the way, Otlange High School was founded by the first president of the ANC, John Langalibalele Dube. He then moved to Geneva to take up a position as the coordinator at the World YWCA, where she established a global program for young women from 1984 to 1989. In 1989, the year I finished matric, she returned to Cape Town, where she spearheaded TEAM, an ecumenical organization that focused on upskilling women. She continued along this path of community service when she opened the World University Service in South Africa, where she promoted literacy and rural development. She also led her own consulting agency called Phumelela Services, where she focused on race and gender issues. Dr. Mlambo-Ngcuka worked tirelessly on programs and policies to reduce inequality throughout her political career. Her political journey began as a member of the first democratically elected South African Parliament, 1994 to 1996, then as a deputy minister in the Department of Trade and Industry, 1996 to 1999, as Minister of Minerals and Energy in 1999 to 2005, and finally as Deputy President of South Africa from 2005 to 2008. An example of a commitment during her political career are the Accelerated and Shared Growth Initiative for South Africa, which afforded young unemployed graduates international working experience. Having dedicated her life to bringing an end of apartheid, she became the first woman to hold the position of deputy president, the highest ranking female political career in the history of South Africa. As the head of the United Nations entity that is dedicated to gender equality and the empowerment of women, she is a global advocate for women and girls. She leads the organization's innovative work on transforming social inequalities and discriminatory norms with initiatives such as the Hair for She movement, driving men and boys' engagement in gender equality, the Unstereotype Alliance initiative influencing advertising norms for positive change and equal representation, and help countries to change hundreds of laws that discriminate against women and the girls. She has also successfully mobilized a historic 40 billion US dollars in financial commitments from member states, private sector, philanthropies, and civil society, as well as young people, which have formed generational equality to drive transformative change for women and girls around the world. Dr. Mlambo-Ngcuka continues to be engaged and affiliated with organizations committed to education, women empowerment, and gender equality. Such affiliations include the Mlambo Foundation, and she's the founder, the Global Partnership and Fund to End Violence Against Children, African Leadership Academy, and the Mandela Rose Foundation. Ladies and gentlemen, if I continue to read her bio, I am going to collapse because my feet are already tired. Chancellor, I now request you to confer the authority, rights, and privileges of the office of Chancellor on Dr. Phumzile Mlambo-Ngcuka.
Phumzile Mlambo-Ngcuka, inasmuch as the Council of the University of Johannesburg has appointed you Chancellor in accordance with the university statute, and inasmuch as you have graciously accepted the appointment, I have the sincere pleasure in announcing that the authority, rights, and privileges of the office of Chancellor are now conferred upon you.
So I'm going to request Dr. Phumzile Mlambo-Ngcuka to move to the center so that we can witness her robing. I will also request Mr. Teke and Professor Ndebele to join us in this room. Friends of the University of Johannesburg, I now present to you the Chancellor of the University of Johannesburg, Dr. Phumzile Mlambo-Ngcuka. Since you interrupted me, I am going to begin again. Friends of the University of Johannesburg, I now present to you the Chancellor of the University of Johannesburg, Dr. Phumzile Mlambo-Ngcuka, to deliver her inaugural address.
Thank you, Prof. Sanbonani, Dumelang, Afshin, Huyenand, Jalunjar. Professor Jabulo Ndebele, Chancellor of the University of Johannesburg, Chair of Council, Mr. Mike Teke, Vice Chancellor Chilizi Marwala, previous Vice Chancellor Professor Aaron Rensbeck, incoming Vice Chancellor, Professor George Mperi, Your Excellencies, the ambassadors, ministers, the President of the SRC, ladies and gentlemen. In the foreword of 1999 State of the World's Children Report on Education, the then Secretary General of the United Nations, Kofi Annan, wrote a powerful declaration, and it said, "Education is a human right with immense power to transform. On its foundation rests the cornerstone of freedom, democracy, and sustainable human development." These words capture the place of education in our long journey of development and our hopes for our country. I could not agree more with Secretary General Kofi Annan, even as I accept that education is not a panacea. Let me start by thanking the Council for nominating and appointing me to this position. I am truly overjoyed. I am happy to be the third Chancellor of the University of Johannesburg. I think the more I listened to Professor Marwala, is the more I felt this is the right decision. It feels right. As we emerge from unimaginable winter of despair precipitated by the global pandemic, the last 2 years, the university was a haven for many students who, like many of us, were confused and distressed by the havoc created by COVID-19. Common amongst us was the need for safe places to isolate ourselves in. Going home for many students was not a desirable option, as their homes were not set up to deal with this ordeal. Thank you, UJ, for allowing your students to stay on campus if they needed to, and for making sure that they had access to medical support, food, water, and energy when ESCOM allowed it. You kept them safe and you lightened anxieties. I think it is not any shock that we only lost 2 students in this dreadful time. You successfully enabled students to continue in this environment. At every tier, the experience of the pandemic forced you to reimagine the world. I am impressed that UJ has demonstrated that it can help us imagine the future we want. Thank you to the lecturers for rising to the occasion, and to the students for doing their part, making sure that even at that difficult time, little time was lost. Like many of you here, I grew up under apartheid. I joined the fight against apartheid. I saw the victory against apartheid. I saw the emergence of a democratic South Africa. I worked to build a free South Africa. I saw the state capture, and I saw the destruction of progress that the country had made. In a tiny framework of our history, our own hard-won victory, And the many years that we put into it seem to erode in front of us. Nevertheless, we are determined that our country will find its way. At this point, though, we do not have a single political party in South Africa that is really strong and ready to govern and deliver services to all the people with honesty, with excellence. This is a challenge we face. We have excellence in pockets in the political spectrum, but that is not enough. We all have to work to breathe life back into our parties and into our political system. We are at risk of allowing our hard-won freedom to go to waste. I hope not under your watch. Falling into a slippery slope and sleepwalking ourselves into what could become a failed state is not an option. We have too many people in this country with the capacity to take us forward. And if we were in any way to fail to do this, our children and grandchildren will never forgive us. That would also hurt the good work that has been done by many of you, including our universities. The good work that the University of Johannesburg has done. So I have news for all of us. We cannot be bystanders. This is our challenge, and solutions are in our hands. We have to defend our democracy and our education in the same way all of us, including universities, made sure that apartheid was history. Democracy in the world is under assault, often by the same people who are supposed to be protecting it. The situation in our country of corruption has reached a point that gives all of us concern. But I want to highlight the fact that critically, there are graduates who come from these universities that we are part of, who are taught by the lecturers in these universities, who unfortunately have joined in this unbelievable and concerning tendency of deepening corruption in our country. This is in the private sector, amongst the elected representatives in the civil service, and this has to concern us as universities. Clearly, education did not prepare all these leaders for honest and ethical service. What did we miss as teachers? I honestly believe clean service is a value that has to be instilled in all our students before they qualify. A cursory glance at the state capture report, which only scratches the surface, makes us realize how devoid of ethical leadership we have become, despite the fact that millions of South Africans are law-abiding citizens. As universities, we are involved in the presentation of knowledge to students, and there is a responsibility that accompanies this endeavor. It extends beyond what we do on campuses. It takes us to communities. The state of affairs in our country, therefore, requires us to reimagine our education. It requires us to teach Ubuntu, responsibility, leadership that is ethical. It also requires us to make sure that when we hand certificates to students, we are also giving them the capacity to be true to the communities they are expected to serve. This is us, all of us, and the fellow universities who are with us here, reimagining education in order to respond to the situation in our country. UJ offers a compulsory artificial intelligence course to all new students. This is one example of making sure that all students have the same benchmark on something that is so important. This presents education reimagined and transformed to address the prevailing conditions, as many of the children would come from a background where there was no exposure to digital education. So, we can do this for ethics. We can offer all students exposure before they leave the university to education that teaches them ethics and accountability. The birth of UJ signals that the ideals espoused in the White Paper 3 aimed at addressing social justice and the social and structural inequality and fragmentation in higher education was largely achieved. As this institution demonstrates, the future will belong to those who can reimagine it, who can take time to reflect on it and make the necessary changes. UJ is now a university of a whopping 50,000 students, 80% of whom, I have been told, are first-time graduates in their family. This is special. You have heard from the Vice Chancellor that the QS World University Rankings indicated that UJ is now ranked second nationally and on the continent, and that UJ is now ranked second in the country for research output, according to the Department of Higher Education and Training. These are heartwarming achievements that can only mean that we have a hardworking and dynamic team that leads this institution, and that we have students who know why they are here. These incredible facts served as a personification of shaking of the shackles of our past and opening new vistas. Whilst we acknowledge these indicators of success, our journey is only beginning as we continue to pursue our dream and the vision that we had for our country in 1994. We still have it. We still have that dream. Important in that journey is our collaboration with other universities. So let me take this moment and thank the representatives from our sister university present here for honoring us with your presence. Just as we need healthy competition, we also need collaboration even more in all aspects of our scholarship. We need allowance of triangulation and peer review at various levels to ensure the quality of our education system is as best as it can be. UJ, like other higher education institutions, produces and trains the people who become the cream of our society. We must make sure that we look for this cream. We must also take measures through these institutions to make sure that our work impacts our country in the most positive way and at a large scale. At this point, our collaboration is most valued. There is an African proverb which says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. We need to go together as different institutions of higher learning. We are in a complex moment in the world, not just in South Africa, with mega global trends and changes. We are witnessing the largest number of displaced and desperate people in the world who are desperately looking for a place they can call home. Their movement puts strain on the receiving countries, on global humanitarian support. And yet, these are also people that are part of our history and our future. We have a world that is short of global solidarity. This was tangibly experienced with the vaccine distribution, where developing countries were initially left out in the cold to fend for themselves. We have also confronted the dangers of reduced capacity for productivity in many countries. The scramble for personal protective equipment and other essentials taught us about the loss of productivity in many countries. Ideally, every country should be able to produce for itself the essentials that the country needs. Globalization at its best encouraged and delivered just in time. This also can be at the expense of building local capacity and self-reliance. It is no surprise that some today are questioning globalization and calling for deglobalization. The war in Ukraine compounded the problems. In South Africa, we saw shortage of fertilizers, of cooking oil. We had to ask ourselves, do we need cooking oil from Ukraine in South Africa? Can we not produce our own fertilizers? So as we reimagine the world, these are some of the questions we should be asking ourselves. We saw what all of this did to the cost of living and causing food insecurity, especially for the poor. Here at home in South Africa, we have also faced the challenge of energy. This is not just in South Africa. We have seen the high cost of energy in Europe. Again, supply chains are a problem, but compounded by the war in Ukraine. Our own problem has been caused by our own issues, which I think you all know about. I don't have to get into that. But nevertheless, even if Eskom was perfect, we needed at this time to be worrying about the future of generation of clean energy. We needed to be concerned about our capacity to secure a future where energy will not be a problem. Then we have water scarcity, another mega trend that is global and it plagues the world. Yes, in South Africa, we have challenges that may also be compounded by our own mismanagement of water systems and ailing infrastructure and the lack of mitigating interventions. But also, we have climate change. We have increased population. We have deforestation. All of this suggests that the problem of water was always going to be upon us. South Africa is approaching physical water scarcity in 2025. We are dealing with climate change, with extreme weather patterns and diminishing of life-sustaining resources, which have a disproportionate impact on women and rural population. In reimagining our world, our education, we have to think about mitigating all these mega global trends. I have learned of some encouraging developments at UJ that speak specifically to these challenges we face. For example, there is a constant exploration of other sources of energy, such as solar power. Similar, there is research at the Water and Health Research Center at UJ, which deals with the relationship between water and human health based on the premises that no other advancement in the field of medicine and health have attributed more to increased lifespan and improved general health than the access to safe water, as well as improved domestic hygiene and sanitation. The Institute of Nanotechnology and Water at the university explores the potential of nanotechnology applications to alleviate many of South Africa's water problems, the result of which can be applied also by other countries in Africa. This our country needs, and this we appreciate. Africa is a young continent. It has the largest number of young people in the world. In 2020, Africa's population that is under 35 was almost 1 billion. And 40% of the population was aged 15. In South Africa, 20.6 million of the population is youth. That is a challenge that must concern universities because this is our constituency. Chancellors who are here and vice chancellors, this is our constituency. And as they say, Abur Makaplan. We have to think about what we're going to do for these children. Many of these young people need us to create a safe path so that they can navigate life. With the growing of youths that are out of work and out of school, it means that we have to make sure that these children do not grow up to be adults that will not have the future we wish for them. Unemployment is a challenge. This university has embraced this challenge and has invested in the training of students. As we think about the future of technology and what we have to learn, I'm glad to know that that is in the DNA of this university. I can tick this. This is not something we have to worry about. The enthusiasm for use of technology, even for those who do not take the STEM subjects, is encouraging. I would like to thank Professor Marwala and the rest of the academic staff and the students for making sure that this took root in this university. At Mlambo Foundation, where I spend most of my time, I see the hunger of teachers and learners for opportunities that expose them to technology. I have seen this in Venda. I have seen this in many other parts of South Africa and in East and Southern Africa where we work. The UN Summit on Transforming Education, which just finished at the 2022 UN General Assembly and was led by young people, highlighted the diverse needs of education and urged member states to look carefully at the unfolding reality globally regarding the demand for appropriate skills. They pointed out that education is not adapting and changing fast enough. There were 180 countries who attended, 80 represented by heads of state. There were pre-consultations in 115 countries where the reimagination of education was discussed. In this summit, they also highlighted the importance of including green education and gender awareness in the curriculum of the future. Technology was placed right and center of the reimagined education, and they lamented unequal education within countries and between countries. These are critical changes for us to deliver on SDG 4. Gender digital divide still leaves many women and girls behind, especially in 3 areas: access to gadgets and use of technology. Secondly, skills needed to enable full participation. And thirdly, the role of women in leadership and decision-making of technology institutions in public and private sector. This entrenched differentiation between the digitally haves and the digital have-nots only further deepens inequality. According to Statistics South Africa, in 2020, only 37% of South African households have had consistent access to internet through cell phones or computers. The data indicates that even though there was increased access to internet connection in households, rural areas still lag behind significantly. What we do here in UJ in exposing students to technology is in part a great contribution in addressing these students who come from technology-deprived communities. I've also seen in visiting UJ the Techno Lab at this campus, which has made great strides in bridging some of the awareness and literacy gap through their skills initiative, including an emphasis on girls. The Soweto Lab, which also offers children in the township a unique opportunity to do experiments they cannot do in their schools, under the guidance of scientists. In my interactions in these institutions associated with UJ, be they the schools or the science lab, I have been filled with hope when I saw so many young people with doctorates. Congratulations. I commend you for these efforts and for having these role models right within our communities. We also have a problem of literacy in our country. We know that South Africa, according to the World Bank, has 87% of adults who are literate. We are below Mexico, Brazil, Azerbaijan, and this adult illiteracy has a direct impact on the illiteracy of children. I am raising this while I have my colleagues from other universities. We have to address this because it is the foundation that our country needs. The fact that we have children who reach standard 4 without knowing how to read for meaning in any language is a crisis. We as universities have to be concerned about the training of teachers who teach foundation level. We have to make sure that our children can speak and write and understand in their mother tongue. If we do not do that, we are bringing our education down. In our reimagined education, these are the challenges we otherwise face. Gender inequality enables gender-based violence. Gender equality in education is one way in which patriarchy thrives from generation to generation. And this presence of gender inequality in our institution weaponizes society. A university which fails to address discrimination of women or gender non-conforming people creates an environment that normalizes discrimination. As the HRC states, schools continue to be the context for gender inequalities, while policies have led to gender parity in enrollment and increased participation. There is disparity in equal education. I am glad that at UJ, you are focusing on eliminating rape and sexual harassment on campus. But I would like to urge you to take this also even further. This is a man's job and a man's problem. Gender inequality is a responsibility of men to address. Because perpetrators of discrimination against women is perpetrated by men. Rape is perpetrated by men. Sexual harassment is perpetrated by men. Whatever we do here at UJ on this subject will not be valid, not unless men, dear new Vice Chancellor, are in the forefront. So I leave this in your capable shoulders. As the continent comes out of the pandemic, with higher levels of poverty, unemployment, and vast economic challenges, we need to reimagine our way forward because it's even more difficult. We also need to work with our African partners to make Africa work for all of us. So I commend the university for the study trips you have taken with students to neighboring countries through Africa Bus, so that our students have first-hand experiences on the challenges of the region. Decolonization of our worldview and the impact of this on the curriculum and research has been another tangible shift and has been deeply entrenched in our Pan-African identity. It has been crucial that UJ is aligned with sister universities and institutions in the continent. My journey in this university begins today. It is with exhilaration and excitement that I join you in reimagining the future. UJ's story is inspirational, and I want to express my sincere gratitude to Professor Marwala for everything that you have done to introduce me to this university, and for the excitement that you bring to this campus. I want to thank Mr. Teke for the leadership and for the 6 a.m. calls. They worked. I want to thank Professor Ndebele for the leadership that has made sure that UJ has sailed to a safe place and is ready to take the next journey. And I want to thank the members of Council for their confidence in me and for their warmth. I also want to thank the students. My short encounter with the president of the SRC was warm. For now. I hope we can continue on this journey. I also want to thank my family for always being there, for the support and for the encouragement, as well as my team at Mlambo Foundation. I leave an announcement to my friends who are here that akubhaliswa kum umuntu ofuna ukuzofunda apha. I don't take registration of students coming to UJ. I, however, will welcome your support of this university. I have no doubt this new chapter will be full of excitement. UJ's footprints will be visible and stronger globally and nationally, and that this is a dream we must collectively pursue. Count on me to be part of that journey. I leave you with the words of the former president of Burkina Faso, Thomas Sankara, who once said, "You cannot carry out fundamental change without a certain amount of madness. We must dare to invent the future." I thank you.
Madam Chancellor, thank you for this afternoon. You may have seen, ladies and gentlemen, and the outgoing Chancellor has already alluded to the formality of this institution. It's got many levels. You hear Chancellor, you hear Vice Chancellor, you hear Council. Mine this evening, I have been tasked and honored to welcome Mr. Mike Teke, the University Chair of Council, to the stage for a congratulatory statement on some wise words of wisdom. The Council, ladies and gentlemen, governs the university, and Mr. Teke's role during his tenure has emerged as an exemplary template for leadership. It is fitting then that as we undersee these seismic shifts this evening, that we turn to him once again for guidance. For Mr. Teke is an embodiment of UJ leadership and all its structures. May I therefore request you to allow me and accompany me to welcoming Mr. Mike Teke to the stage. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, honored guests. I think the list will be very long if I were to welcome and greet everybody who's here, but you are all welcome to this family. I stand here tonight believing that my short message will not only be listened to, but will also be heard. I'm proud to have been associated with this institution for a long time. And during that time, I held positions as a member of council, I became chairman of the Human Resources Committee of Council, and ultimately I became chairman. Yes, Prof. Marwala is right, I've worked with him very well. It is during this period that I watched men and women of this institution being hard at work in making this institution a great and strong institution. I'm proud of my association with this institution, and I'll fade into the horizon, but not only completely disappear, as I will watch as this institution progress and become stronger and stronger. Ladies and gentlemen, every nation of this world becomes strong, grows strong, and remains strong on the back of strong institutions. And South Africa is no different. Ladies and gentlemen, honored guests, our country deserves to be modern. Professor J.P. Landman, in his book, The Long View, he quotes two great professors when describing modernization. He quotes Professor Molefi Kete Asante from Temple University in Philadelphia. And I quote, "I would contend that modernization is not a byproduct of the West. It is a natural product of societies seeking to make life more comfortable and convenient for their citizens." Then Professor Njabulo Ndebele puts it, "It is the quality of organized living that counts." Ladies and gentlemen, universities are institutions that form part of building a strong nation. Young generations that aspire to be great citizens wish to be equipped with great education. And it is our responsibility as universities to make it easier for them to access this education. A young boy or girl from any background must achieve his or her own dream, because we lead great universities that facilitate the achievement of that dream. We must make universities safe spaces for learning. We must make universities a home away from home. These young people's parents and guardians must feel at ease and comfortable when they sleep at night, knowing that their children are learning in a safe space and are in warm hands. These institutions are not our fiefdoms. I never wanted to own a university. We don't own them and cannot therefore turn them into our piggy banks or our route to a great fortune. They deserve to be respected. They must be preserved as institutions of higher learning. Honored guests, in my own small way, I believe I tried to participate in initiatives. And I believe I could have made sure that these young people become better citizens. The UJ Men's Forum must continue. The feeding scheme is amazingly useful, as it caters for around 4,800 students a day. The book reading sessions on Fridays must continue, Professor Marwala, even if we're not there, both of us. All these initiatives are directed and driven by great and dedicated professionals in this university. Ladies and gentlemen, it is men and women of superior ethical character. It is men and women with a strong work ethic. It is men and women of courage and fearlessness. And it is men and women of dignity who build strong institutions, not only make a nation proud, but make the nation strong amongst other nations and stand up to be counted. Dr. Phumzile Mlambo-Ngcuka, today we are gathered here knowing, understanding, and believing that your ethical character, your strong work ethic, courage and fearlessness and dignity will stand you in good stead to lead this institution of higher learning to the next level. For me, you are a woman of firsts, not feasts, of firsts. Remember, you are first deputy president in South Africa way back in 2005. And the most powerful nation in the world, the United States, actually achieved that only in 2020. To be exact, when Vice President Kamala Harris became Vice President. My confidence in your leadership is cemented by watching documentaries on the behavior of lion prides. A pride of lions is strong, united, and healthy because of lionesses. Male lions with great-looking manes can protect, but without lionesses, they easily go hungry and get lost in the bush. Colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, honored guests, President Xi Jinping, in one of his statements on education, he says, I quote, "We need Chinese characteristics in order to develop world-class Chinese universities. The world will not have a second Harvard, Oxford, Stanford, MIT, or Cambridge. But it does have a Peking University, Tsinghua University, Zhenjiang University, Fudan University, Nanjing Universities, and other well-known Chinese institutions. With these educational institutions, our talent will flourish and our country will be a strong competitor," close quote. Chancellor, I leave this great assignment in your hands to take this institution to the level of being #1 in Africa. I leave this assignment in your hands to take this institution to being a university of choice for that young boy and young girl coming from that remote village of South Africa, being driven by a power of dreams. I leave this university in your hands, being a strong and sustainable institution that will never fail. Being a stakeholder of choice and partner for like-minded institutions, communities, and other reputable stakeholders. And lastly, this university is the university of the future. It may feel and sound destabilizing to hear that UJ is facing a change of leadership in several senior roles. We are installing a new chancellor. We have already done that. Dr. Phumzile Mlambo-Ngcuka, congratulations. Soon we will have to find a new chairman for this university as I move on. A new vice chancellor, Professor Letlhokwa George Mbedi. Prof. Mbedi, I used to call Prof. Marwala the son of Alpheus, his father, his late father, may his soul rest in peace. And if I was still around at 6 a.m., I would call you, and I would call you the son of Josephine, your mother. And we have a new registrar, colleagues, in Professor Bettin Janse van Vieren. Chancellor, I assure you, you are surrounded by capable brains, capable hands, and human beings with empathy. These council members, these Senate members, executive leadership group, MEC, staff and support staff, the entire university community is ready to traverse this journey with you. This is a humble group of people, and all I can say is steady as she sails. So they say in the classics. I'm referring to the ship called UJ. Now, what is left of me, Chancellor, is to congratulate you, is to wish you great success. But I want to close with the words. I used these words at the recent stakeholder report presentation. These are the words that I pulled out of a book authored by a man called David Gillis, who wrote a book called The Man Who Broke Capitalism. He was referring to a man by the name of Jack Welch. And when Reginald Jones, who was the CEO of General Electric, handed over the reins to Jack Welch, the company was a $14 billion company, market capitalization. And Reginald Jones said to Jack Welch, "Jack, I give you the Queen Mary." Jones said, "This is designed not to sink." Welch didn't miss the beat. I quote what Jack Welch said. He said, "I don't want the Queen Mary." He snapped back, "I plan to blow up the Queen Mary. I want speedboats." Now, colleagues, as I congratulate our new Chancellor, as I congratulate our new Vice Chancellor and the new team that's taking over and the new chairman who will be coming in, UJ is a great ship. My message is simple to all of you. She is not designed to sink. I thank you.
Another big round of applause for the chair. Thank you very much, Chair. Ladies and gentlemen, an inauguration represents a real sense of occasion. It is more than coming together of an incumbent and an institution. It represents, as the chairman said, the beginning of a new chapter. As with any new change, the support of one's family is immeasurable. It is my great honor, therefore, to welcome Dr. Phumzile Mlambo-Ngcuka's family here this evening. As the late Archbishop Tutu said, the family is a God's gift to you, as you are to them. Ladies and gentlemen, just if you must know, the Chancellor inkosikazi yakwaMbona, oMpandla, oNtsheke, oChayingwe, oMnqwazempele. It is my pleasure, therefore, to invite Mr. Bulelani-Ngcuka and Mr. Luyolo-Ngcuka to join us on the stage. Another round of applause for family. I'm sure everyone was waiting for that moment that says, kiss the bride. Yes. That's right. Over the coming years, as I'm sure the years that have led up to this moment have demonstrated, you will be an invaluable source of support to the new Chancellor and also to the Council. As we celebrate Dr. Mlambo-Ngcuka's inauguration this evening, we also welcome you with open arms to the University of Johannesburg. Congratulations. You may take it. Ladies and gentlemen, as we close off this ceremony tonight, it would be remiss if I did not allude to the great work that has been done at UJ, as you may have been hearing. We are an institution, and this is not boasting, we are an institution worth talking about. I think tonight the dinner table will just be flushed with all the news of UJ. As Dr. Mlambo-Ngcuka's speech alluded, we boast exemplary competitive primary and high schools that mirror our commitment to redefining teaching and learning in the fourth industrial revolution. As the new Chancellor was talking here, she mentioned that UJ takes students from grade R to postdoc. And the incoming Vice Chancellor, Professor Mbedi, whispered in my ears and he said, we must start with a crash up to postdoc. UJ has grounded its strategy in responding to the challenges and opportunities of this era, and our success has been resounding. It is no accident that we have risen to new heights in recent years. The new Chancellor has alluded to the Funda Ujabule School in Soweto. The school was founded in 2010, our school, in partnership with the Gauteng Department of Education. The objective behind the school was multi-pronged. One, it was aimed at providing excellent primary school education to children close to the UJ Soweto campus, which it demonstrably has done. But secondly, it was also aimed at creating a practice of a learning site for the education of teachers of young children. enabling child development studies and research on children's performance in the school curriculum, and creating a resource center for schools in the vicinity at Soweto. As you will be seeing the video right now, it is one of our schools, and now you are going to be seeing the children reciting the preamble of the Constitution of South Africa. That was grade R UJ Funda Ujabule School. Our tagline in recent years has been reimagining the future, and I think the Chancellor has alluded to this. In 2021, we made headlines with a new member of the UJ family. Through the Institute of Intelligence Systems, we acquired a sophisticated, agile, mobile robot dog, affectionately called Spot. Manufactured by Boston Dynamics in the United States of America, Spot can navigate terrains with unprecedented mobility under a considerable heavy load. This is the first in academia in South Africa and the continent, and speaks to the 4IR in action. With that, I leave you with a little taste of how UJ continues to reimagine the future. Please remain on the seats. Do not flee.
$1 zillion. The question is, who lets the dogs out?
Thank you, Sport. It is not a dog that just dances. There's a lot that the dog can do. I thought there was something called onco. It's all right. It's okay. We miss you. The UJ Choir, ladies and gentlemen, another round of applause. At this point, may I call upon the Chancellor to come and wrap the evening. To you, Prof. No.
New Chancellor, I also got confused. I have I seldom run short of words, but I am short of words right now. And just to say to the Chancellor that suddenly I feel this pang of jealousy that I'm leaving this institution. But I stand to thank you so much for being here, for having agreed to be part of UJ's journey. And listening to your speech, I could see almost the entire trajectory of your life. And beginning for me, when I first saw and knew you at the National University of Lesotho, where I was a young lecturer and you were a student just coming there. And so it's a long road to freedom to this point. And your speech, you, as I said, captured the trajectory of your life right up to this particular moment, when starting where you grew up, going to school, and then getting employed, and you've gone through the entire range of being a person at home, a member of the community, a member of an institution, a political party, a political environment, and off you went into the outside world, Africa, and right up there at the United Nations, being at the head of the entire globe. And in that space that you have been through, you haven't forgotten that there, as you said, there is room for competition, but there is a lot of room for collaboration. And that collaboration meaning at various levels, from institutions right up to the United Nations and at the global level. We need more and no less collaboration today as we face the war, the prospect of a nuclear holocaust. We can't afford to disintegrate. And you put across that message so clearly and so poignantly. I'd like to thank you for that, and to add as another word of welcome to you to the future, the next future of UJ. I also want to share an impression I've had. It grew strongly and strongly as the evening progressed, that we have been told so many people at the higher level of the institution are leaving. And I realize there is no sense of anxiety about them going. But there is a confidence and a celebration that they have done their bit, they are moving on, leaving a legacy that others who have been left behind are taking forward. It's a really wonderful feeling. And when I had to share the pride of being part and parcel of such an institution. What I found very wonderful throughout the 10 years I've been here is just the sense of youthfulness, the energy of UJ each time I'm here. And we had a bit of it, experienced some of it today. It remains for me to thank the council, the chairman, the senate of the university, academic staff, that I used to thank them at the end of each and every graduation, and to point them out and say a round of applause to all of them. I guess we can say so today as well. And I can't live without saying thank you to the youth, the representatives of the youth of this campus, and the excellence that they bring from the choir that you listen to today. I also want to thank all of you who are here today, from different friends of the university of many years, and relatives of academic staff, friends of many of us in here who have attended. Your presence is deeply appreciated. You brought yourself and your lives into this institution to participate in it, and the whole evening leaves me extraordinarily inspired. And thank you so much for having taken the time off to be here to celebrate the arrival of a new Chancellor. And we thank you greatly for putting aside time to be here. Thank you very much. I now request you, everyone, to stand and join in singing the national anthem and to remain standing until the congregation has been dissolved and the academic procession has left the hall. Before I end, I'd like to share once more an experience that everyone will remember. At the end of every graduation, the gusto with which the national anthem was sung was repeated today. It's a wonderful experience to relive. And now, for the last time, by virtue of the powers vested in me, I now pronounce this congregation dissolved.